In a world where steam mingled with smoke and iron clashed against steel, there was an artilleryman named Jack who had stood his ground on the blood-stained fields of Sedan during one fateful conflict that would etch itself into history as the Franco-Prussian War. The year was 1870, when clouds gathered not just in the sky, but also over Europe, and it seemed destiny called upon Jack to witness a battle like no other before him, or confrontation where human arrogance met mechanical might with such ferocity that neither side could escape unscathed. On this particular day, as dawn broke its golden chains across France's horizon, the air hummed with an ominous promise of turmoil ahead. Jack positioned himself atop a mound overlooking his fellow French artillerymen and their batteries arrayed before them like sentinels in defense against what they believed to be invincible foes from beyond Germany's borders, a nation whose prowess with technology had begun to sow seeds of unease within the hearts of many. As Jack tightened his grip on a rifle resting beside him, he couldn't help but notice an unsettling stillness that belied their dire situation. For what began as whispered threats about Prussian might had escalated into full-blown warfare where the echo of battle drums threatened to drown out all else. The sun climbed higher, and Jackie's gaze fell upon his own cannoneer beast that stood proudly among its peers, yet seemed suddenly diminished in significance as he watched from afar another lineage of artillerymen facing the same fate under a different banner, Prussian steel. These new-fangled contraptions, gleaming with an unsettling purity, were poised to redefine what it meant to wield power on such vast battlefields and efficiency that Jack had never before imagined possible. The clamor of war was upon them when a distant rumble signaled the start of combat. Cannons roared in fierce defiance as shrapnel painted streaks across the sky and clouds, now dark with foreboding rather than white on blueprints or harbinger to what would unfold. Jack felt his pulse quicken at each blast that tore through air dense enough to choke hope from throats it touched. Through smoke-veiled eyes, he watched as the Prussian cannons unleashed their fury in a rhythm so relentless and precise. Jack's own men faltered under waves of shellfire that devoured earth with cold indifference to mortal plight or valor. The whine of modern artillery was intoxicatingly effective, their soundtrack composed by destruction itself, as each cannon spoke in a language only the battlefield could understand, their words punctuated not just by thunder but also fear and despair that crept through every French heart like an unwelcome shadow. Jack, his fingers traced lines across his rifler ritual to steady nerves as he witnessed one of his own batteries crumble before him, their fire now a mere whisper against the cacophony of relentless Prussian volleys that seemed poised to never cease. The once proud guns lay dismantled and defeated on fields slick with blood, their final stand an elegy for lost comrades who had believed themselves invincible until they met their match in a form wrought not of flesh but iron, steam, and ambition, untempered by the wisdom of history. Amidst this chaos swirled whispers that grew louder with each passing moment. Tales spun from lips seeking solace or distraction, whispering through ranks, whispers as brittle and broken as shattered remnants. Reflective like glass the night, when hope seemed so tangible, Jack found himself caught in a maelstrom of retreat, where once stood forward marches. Confusion was now his silent companion while he navigated through smoke-filled corridors that twisted back into memories not yet forgotten but hauntingly replaying scenes as if to teach him lessons too late learned. The world around seemed in slow motion, each step away from what had been a life of camaraderie and pride now an achingly deliberate dance with defeat itself under the shadow of towering Prussian artillery that overlooked his every move like silent sentinels themselves no longer at home on their ramparts. His path intersected one final time on a meeting for battle, but confrontation nonetheless, as he came Jack trudged along a path that had once been his proud stride in military boots, or road carved from necessity as much as resolve, now leading him away not towards victory, but toward home's embrace and quiet reflection on what was lost amidst the cacophony of war. The taste of metal tangled with blood still lingered heavy upon his tongue, a reminder that this journey bore more than just physical weight in retreat from an enemy whose might he had underestimated, but also the psychological toll woven into every dislodged stone and fallen leaf as they whispered tales of misfortune. The sun was setting low on what remained at her horizon, blotted by smoke that curled like a grieving widow's handkerchief against an unforgiving sky. its edges frayed with the last gouts of battle raging at his backbone where he had stood once firm and unyielding. The air hung thick between him and every living thing, trees heavy laden with silence rather than fruit, birds still flapping their wings though they no longer sang songs to cheer warriors or inspire bravery in the hearts of those who listened for echoes from home's doorstep. Now just a memory. As Jack walked onward, his mind wandered through corridors darker than any he had trodden within stone walls, where once they marched towards glory, or so it was believed when dawn painted the sky in hues of hope and camaraderie that were as ephemeral as dew upon a spider's web. In his solitude, with only nature for company now, he felt each step away from battlefields where men had fought not just against armies across frontiers, but within themselves amidst the fog of war, a mist so thick it seemed to shroud their once unbreakable spirits as much as obscure vision and intent. He paused before an ancient oak standing defiant in a clearing, its gnarled branches outspread like arms too weary yet still stretched towards the sky's embracer, silent sentinel for him to converse with about times both joyous and dire under the same sun that had witnessed all of it. Jack leaned against bark as rough-hewn marble, feeling its age reflected in his own calloused palms, a connection between man and nature he hadn't realized the depths until retreat forced him to confront what life beyond war could offer amidst loss. With every mile that took away from where they had been victorious or vanquished alike, Jack felt like an old soldier who knew too late his heart was made of follier truth, as sharp and cutting now with the setting sun's light than ever before when he stood unassailable in triumph. The realization clawed its way into him that ambition without temperance is but a foolhardy chase after dreams, much like those men who had wandered beyond their strength or wisdom, an echo of missteps, repeating with each step back towards safety and solitude. His boots carried the dust from foreign lands where his heart once beat in unison with pride for France, but now felt as empty as shell casings abandoned after battle's end, reminding him that he was not just a soldier returning to loved ones lost, but also one who must come back changed. The journey home would weave through fields of green and silver, streams where laughter had once filled the air with music rather than gunshots. Metallic chorus, Jack knew these sights better, as they were etched upon his soul's canvas, now blotted by tragedy yet still vibrant in memory. Night fell like a curtain call to daylight's player time for rest and whispered dreaming, where the mind could find solace or scars healed through sleep's gentle balm. Jack sought refuge from his thoughts beneath an old stone bridge that once was merely part of scenery before war had turned it into a symbolic passageway between worlds. The cool waters murmured secrets to him, offering comfort and the promise of new beginnings just as they flowed past stones smoothed by time's scarcer testament to nature's resilience amidst human folly. He felt compelled to honor in his soulful silence, as stars blinked into existence overhead like distant lighthouses, guiding seafarers. Through the tempest, Jack found solace not just for himself, but within a nation's spirit that too had been rocked by disbelief and sorrow, an unsettling revelation that in war's aftermath lay bare the very essence of humanity itself. It was here among these celestials Jack sat on a moss-covered rock by the water's edge as he watched his reflection in its surface, rippling gently after each passing boat, a dance of light and shadow that seemed to whisper tales from beyond his own past. The bridge underfoot was now just another structure amidst these fields. It had been a place where children played hide-and-seek before the world grew too heavy with grief for such innocence. The setting sun painted everything in hues of orange and pink, casting long shadows that reached out like searching fingers toward Jack, part a reminder to cherish memories while they lasted, but never hold on so tight as to break under their own weight. A silence hung over the land since evening came. It was a quiet not just between humans, but within nature itself, each awaiting respite from burdens carried too long and with great heaviness of heart. In this moment, when twilight melted into night's embrace, Jack understood that sleep would be more than mere necessity. It could heal the invisible wounds time had inflicted upon his soul. He closed his eyes as memories played like a film within them, laughter echoing in empty spaces where once there were voices, warmth shared over meals now replaced by cool, impersonal emptinesses that held more than just food. He cradled the essence of human connection and love. The river below him had seen generations pass beneath its flow, each leading ripples into existence before they were gone back to dust, as if acknowledging their fleeting presence was part of an eternal cycle beyond even his comprehension. Jack felt that same sense of continuity within himself, a thread linking past and future woven tightly around the present moment, where he sat in reflection, a solitary figure amidst fields both literal and metaphorical. This land had transformed from one day to another, as did all things under the sun's march. He recalled tales of valor whispered by his grandfather during quiet nights around campfire time, when men like Jack would have stories for a lifetime, not just echoes in empty space where only silence lay today. He could almost see him there now, if it weren't so hard to believe that such times were behind them forever. Yet these images flickered within his mind as stars pricked holes through the velvet sky above, a reminder of what had been, and perhaps a foretelling of what might come again in time's endless cycle. If only he dared hope beyond grief's shadowed grasp at heartstrings that seemed too long to mend. The night air was cool against his skin as Jack drew breath through lips chapped by weeping and the salt on them from sobs. Unshackled after years of silence, it felt like a cleansing, an act not just for him, but also seemingly purifying these fields, where once vibrant lives had been porcelain pause in time that left behind more than empty spaces underfoot. His grandmother's hands were always busy with needle and thread as she repaired tears within fabrics worn by family members through years of laughter, life's daily dances. Now her knitting lay still except for the occasional shuttling back and forth over yarn like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Jack knew his grandmother's hands were steady when they worked on these small acts of care, stitching together not just clothes but hope, resilience embodied within every loop and knot. She was the one who taught him strength by example through her unwavering faith in better tomorrows, even as today loomed like a specter over their doorstep. He thought fondly of how those hands had helped to raise him into manhood, teaching lessons not just from books, but also imparted wisdom wrapped tight within the folds of life's fabric, a tapestry that now seemed threadbare in places, where once it was rich and whole beneath his fingers as a boy. He remembered her saying there were things she'd like to tell him, stories about their ancestors who had come before them from distant lands, seeking new beginnings. They spoke of hardships overcome through unity and shared struggle that seemed so foreign now, when division loomed large in the world beyond these fields, or stark contrast between past communal bonds against present disjointedness. But it was her voice, soft yet steadfast, as she recounted tales by firelight's glowing embrace. He knew then and there that this bridge of shared stories connected them across vast oceans where seas had been crossed for love rather than fear, or hatred, or connection to roots, through a gentle sigh that carried with it both his own weariness and love for her stories of yore. He found himself drawn once more into their shared past as she continued to weave narratives under twinkling stars, mimicking the firelight's embrace. Their words became threads in time itself, or tapestry that had survived generations, yet thinned at its edges where tales of old now seemed like whispers from another era, faded but not forgotten within his heart's folds. "Do you remember when we used to sit here together as children?" she asked softly, her eyes reflecting the dancing flames which were akin to distant hearth fires back home in their ancestral village on foreign shores. The very thought of it brought forth memories where time stood still and laughter was currency among friends. He nodded with a smile that had not graced his lips for far too long, as he watched the flicker transform into patterns reminiscent of their mother's ice-deep pools, mirroring both wisdom and sorrow intertwined within her gaze like silk threads through embroidery. The night was rich with tales that had been carefully stitched together under this same canopy, where they learnt not just from the books lining dusty shelves, but also from life's rugged hand crochet or tapestry he now understood needed mending and loving care to hold its memories once more. As she spoke of their forebears' voyages, his thoughts drifted across the expanses where sails had kissed horizons and ships bore dreams like seeds on a breeze. They journeyed not just in body but spirit towards hopeful lands under constellations that whisper promises. The ancestral legacy was one of courage forged from intertwined fates, as the stories painted pictures wherein every misfortune met adversity with unity's unwavering strength, or testament to what their own bond could endure through any storm life might weave its way into their path. She traced her finger along a crochet chain that had once been his first and last, the knots symbolizing survival against odds. How it held not just yarn, but echoes of laughter mingled with tears shed in moments when darkness seemed to stretch its fingers across their world. "Our hands," she whispered tenderly into the night air as if sharing a sacred secret meant, only for them, "are etched by our history and colored with tales yet untold." Their shared heritage was an intricate dance of joyful celebration in times past, when harvests were plentiful under golden suns. Tales spun themselves around the hearty meals prepared from soil-rich earth feasts where stories unfolded like blooming flowers, each petal a chapter that unraveled with every bite savored together against time's eroding touch. The very land itself had been their cradle and classroom. Its richness taught them to value the sustenance of body as much as soul's nourishment or harmony between giving back more than was taken, a cycle where every end seeded another beginning through hands-on communion with nature. They had learned resilience from their ancestors who weathered tempests that sought to break spirits just like brittle twigs against the ferocious winds, yet never once did they falter under pressure, for unity was not merely a word within those circles of kin. It lived and breathed through actions done together in times both joyous and trying. It taught them strength that came from shared silence as much as songs, sung with voices intertwined like braid threads, or resilience woven into the very fabric they now cherished beneath fingertips gently weathered by life's trials, just as their mother had done before her time. As she continued to share these tales of yesteryears and tomorrows yet unseen, that lay on paths less trodden but promising nonetheless, through valleys shadowy with doubt or peaks aglow in the warmth of potential joy, he felt a stirring within her call beyond words. It was an invitation to rekindle connections rooted deep into their lineages, soil and stretch towards horizons kissed by possibility. It beckoned for them to become more than just two souls sharing stories in the present, but also honor those who had come before through acts of remembrance that thread continuity between generations. Their voices became a chorus with time or duet, where tales woven from olden days and hopes sown into dream as dusk painted the sky with hues of gold and purple. A gentle breeze whispered through the leaves as if to carry away any remnants of daylight worries that lingered in their hearts. The old oak tree at the center of town stood witness once more, its gnarled branches stretching like wise arms outward, inviting them into its protective embrace for another night's tale beneath the canopy it had sheltered generations before. "Listen closely," began Alexandra, her voice a velvet thread weaving through their shared silence as she gathered everyone in an intimate circle of trust around the hearty oak. "We are but two souls sharing stories tonight." Her words hung delicately between them and carried with it the weight of unspoken histories that yearned for acknowledgement, just like her grandmother's tales had always done when she stood in their stead decades ago. Their mother's legacy lived on through Alexandra as surely as the tree itself did her stories, were a lullaby passed down with each retelling to guide them back home after wandering too far into imagination, or, perhaps more often, dreaming of possibilities not yet realized but always felt deep within their beings. This night, she continued, her gaze sweeping over the small audience that gathered at Alexandra's side like leaves round a sturdy trunk in autumn winds, before settling into place with trust and familiarity around them all. "We embark on another journey not just of our own ancestry, but through time itself." Her voice took on an ethereal quality as she recounted tales not only from their family's past, but also stories that echoed the lives of countless others whose presence in history had shaped them into who they were. Alexandra spoke with reverence about her great-great-grandmother, a young woman born under similar skies to where now Alex and Julian lay time when their town was but an ambitious village on the brink of becoming something more than what it knew itself to be back then. Her ancestors' eyes had sparkled with mischief or wisdom as she told them tales from days long gone, each story a thread in her family's tapestry that bound Alex and Julian closer together through shared laughter at follies of the past and solemn nodding during recounting of struggles faced by their forebears. It was then that Julian felt an unfamiliar warmth spread beneath his chest, a silent echo from across time reaching out to him like hands gently clasped in prayer, or perhaps just two old friends sharing secrets at the edge of sleep's embracer, connection so intrinsic and yet invisible as if it was always meant only for them. As Alexandra continued her narration, painting scenes with words that danced to music known not by ear, but felt deep in their souls, a celebration under moonlit skies where the air thrummed with melodies of joy, quiet evenings spent poring over leather-bound journals and faded photographs as if they were archaeologists uncovering relics, each discovery adding depth to understanding who came before them. The narrative unfolded like a map, whose legend was not just the past, but also paths yet. Wanderers might take paths that twisted around shared experiences and divergent dreams where their choices would shape futures they dared only whisper about in half-awake reveries while lying on grassy meadows or beside ancient fireplaces. And now Alexandra's voice rose a touch, carrying her words through the night air like incense to summon spirits of memory and hope alike as she spoke with heart zero RCE that could only be born from love for ancestors not seen but always felt. We hold this sacred thread. She extended an arm towards Julian, who accepted it between them. It was a simple gesture, a braid in the night formed by fingers intertwined and histories merged into one embrace of understanding where stories flow as freely as rivers finding their course back to see through time's vein-like network, bringing life with every journey forward while always remembering its source. Their mother had taught them that remembrance was the compass by which they navigated present joys and sorrows for stories, a lighthouse guiding ships safely home as dark waters receded into distant memories not to be feared but celebrated for what each wave of history brought forth. And so, with every tale, Alexandra shared that night underneath the old oak trees, watchful gaze, and Julian's silent acquiescence within his heart where the sky had blushed to a deep indigo as Alexandra and Julian gathered around their family's ancient oak tree, its gnarled branches sprawling above like an elderly guardian of time itself. Their mother's teachings echoed in the hush that blanketed them, a reminder of how stories held together not just hearts, but also histories within heritage-laden veins and sinews. Alexandra's fingers curled around a braid, strands interwoven with their own hair as if to create an unbreakable bond between them and know an emblem of unity in the tapestry that was family legacy woven through generations past into today's twilight. Julian watched her tenderly from beneath his lids heavy with sleep, a sigh escaping him like smoke spiraling upwards before he reluctantly surrendered to drowsiness beside Alexandra and underneath the watchful gaze of their ancestors' tree, its leaves whispering tales only heard at nightfall. It was then that Julian reached out timidly, his fingers tracing along hers, as if seeking guidance in a dreamy realm where time held no dominion over them both, but rather danced around the edges, like sunlight through falling rain droplets. Each story shared another step upon history's untrodden path. He whispered of childhood days spent chasing fireflies, each light an echo in his mind's eye that mirrored their mother's luminous spirit, and wisdom passed down to them like torches handed from one generation to the next, or lineage undimmed despite years slipping through fingers too young for such truths. Their shared reveries drifted on, touching upon tales of love found within family folds, how their grandparents had wed beneath a canopy woven with golden threads as thick and warm as honey in the heart, her testament to lifelong devotion that transcended mere words. Alexandra's voice became soft sonnets, recounting her own journey of discovery, where she unearthed rotes entwined around ancient stones by a babbling brook whose waters still murmured secrets older than the hills, each droplet carrying whispers from ancestors who once cradled them in their arms. The night deepened, its velvet embrace wrapping Alexandra and Julian closer together as they reveled in shared histories that spanned continents and eons. Stories of resilience during war-touched years when strength was born not from might but the quiet courage to endure, their grandparents' faces etched into memory, a visage of fortitude amidst ruins rebuilt with hope's own mortar. They spoke of journeys made across oceans where lands unseen became kin, and laughter rang out in languages that rolled off tongues like melodious symphony composed by history itself as cultures intermingled under the watchful eyes of moonlit skies, teaching them unity's dance. A lull settled between heartbeats until Alexandra's voice wove a tale less told among living ears, one where shadows held counsel in twilight halls and secrets passed through time like gifts wrapped with riddles, where every whispered word had the power to change destinies. With eyes closed, Julian's heart swelled as he felt her recounting ancestral wisdom of when a simple nod or touch could weave threads strong enough to bind two souls together across vast divides. Connections that span time and space like invisible bridges built from understanding, a sacred thread between them. And so beneath the old oak tree, as stars pricked holes in darkness above their heads with silver points of light, Alexandra shared tales not just of where they had been, but also painted possibilities for what awaited beyond tomorrow's horizon. Visions that unfurled like sailcloth against an ocean breeze, a future touched by the past and guided forward on wings crafted from dreams. Julian listened with a heart open to all things as their mother's stories filled him, her lighthouse of memories casting beams across his inner sea, where once dark waters receded into distant echoes, now shimmering in new and shared laughter and promises whispered under the cloak of night, or promise that love's journey was not at its end, but merely paused on a bridge leading to new beginnings. As sleep finally embraced Julian, Alexandra wrapped her arm around his shoulders. Their mother's braid lay between them like an unbroken pledge from one heartbeat to another, a silent testament that even as they closed the book, Alexandra and Julian found themselves wandering down memory lane once more as they sat beneath their favorite old oak tree, which had been a silent witness to countless tales of love woven through time like roots intertwined in fertile soil. The gentle rustle of leaves above them seemed almost meditative, a natural symphony accompanying the soft hums and sighs that danced between Alexandra's lips as she spoke with tender nostalgia, her stories painting vivid scenes from a time when their bond was still young but untested by life's trials. They had been discussing how fortunate they were to find solace in one another amidst the tumultuous waves of change that seemed determined to pull them apart, or distance, both physical and emotional, created between Alexandra, who often found herself on a voyage across oceans for work or study, and Julian's family ties stretching back through generations. As she spoke today's chapter in their storybook of love, it was the thread spun from shared experiences that bound them, their first kiss beneath this very tree years ago, when they were just teenagers who had stumbled upon one another without knowing much beyond a name or face to offer comfort. This simple touch and nod under summer skies now felt like sacred rites, invoking the courage required for love's endurance through seasons of growth rings on their ancient roots. "Remember our first picnic here?" Alexandra asked with an impish glint in her eyes as Julian chuckled, a memory resurfacing before him, a time when both were carefree and unburdened by the weight that grown years often carry, unaware of life's relentless march. Julian's laughter carried on with it echoes of innocence lost, but also regained, as he replied in kind, "I remember how our dreams then felt like they could take us anywhere, to places we had never been or would ever see." His thoughts wandered to the day when Alexandra, her voice a soothing balm against his doubts and fears about their future together, assured him that love was not just an emotion but also action. It required nurturing like any living thing. They reminisced on how they had stood in this very spot as Julian's grandfather spoke of the strength found within family bonds, their own story seemingly woven into his legacy, a lineage that stretched back to shared ancestors whose tales were etched deep into their DNA. Alexandra's mother would often recount how her parents met and fell in love against all odds during times when society dictated otherwise for young lovers of different backgrounds. It was this resilience passed down through generations that fortified Julian's resolve to be patient with the uncertainties ahead. The night wore on as they shared stories not just from their own lives, but also those told by Alexandra's grandmother, a narrative tapestry rich in history and tradition where each family member had played a role of significance, knitting together experiences that Julian felt were uniquely tailored for him. It was under these ancient boughs that he realized his place within this lineage extended beyond the bloodlines. It encompassed shared values like courage, kindness, and an unwavering belief in one another's strength, very threads of their own storybook binding them to each other through times both good and bad. They spoke softly about love's journey that seemed perpetually on the horizon, a path marked by trials, but also triumphant moments where laughter echoed louder than any argument, creating symphonies from soliloquies of understanding or harmony they had learned to play together as partners and friends. It was their mutual devotion to this craft that allowed them the grace not just to endure life's storms, but also appreciate its calmer days, for in every sunset lay a promise, hidden within shadows only Julian could feel fluttering her hopeful heartbeat towards tomorrow's dawn. As they delved into tales of their present and dreamt together about the future that seemed so distant yet intimately connected to them by invisible threads woven with intentions for each other's happiness, Alexandra felt a warmth envelop Julian, her comforting presence amidst life's unpredictable winds. The braid from her mother's locks lay between their hands like an emblem of shared history and the promise that it would continue to bind them in mutual respect as they navigated through love, laughter, growth, and they under testament not only spoken but felt deeply within his own chest. Sleep as twilight painted its golden hues across their modest studio apartment's skyline view, Julian and Alexandra found themselves settled on opposite ends of an oversized armchair in front of a crackling fireplace, their personal hearth where dreams were woven into tangible reality. The braid from her mother's locks lay between their intertwined fingers like the emblem it was, not just holding shared history, but also promising continuity and growth as they navigated life together with love at its core, a silent vow to which both hearts had given themselves wholly without reservation. Evening conversations often meandered into tales of their present lives interspersed with dreams for the future, an amalgamation that seemed distant yet so intrinsically linked by invisible threads woven through intentions and shared aspirations for mutual understanding between two souls bound together. Alexandra, Julian, began gently one night as they sipped on chamomile tea laced with a hint of honey, his voice barely above the crackle of flames, but full of warmth that reached Alexandra's heart in waves and echoed within her chest like a resonant symphony. "I've been thinking about how we started, how every stitch I made for you on your first book came from my desire to craft something enduring, much like our bond." Alexandra smiled against the softness of his words, feeling as though they themselves were woven into a tapestry that no time or trial could unravel. "And each page inscribed with tales and dreams we've shared has become an indelible part of who I am," she replied tenderly while tracing her fingers over the braid now resting atop their folded quilting patterns on a nearby table, or visual testament to past, present, and future. Their hands sought each other's with intentionality as they sat in silence for moments that stretched into eternities, where only love knew how long it would be before the next word was said or shared glance exchanged. As night deepened its embrace around them both, their hearts found comfort not just within each other, but also amidst life's unpredictable winds, or warmth so palpable that on some level they could almost feel themselves growing together like two trees sharing a single root system beneath the earth's surface. Alexandra reached over to tenderly brush her fingertips along Julian's jaw, feeling his heartbeat synchronize with hers, a rhythm so familiar and comforting that it transcended mere physical connection into realms of spiritual unity where no storm could erode the foundation they had built on trust, laughter, understanding, and ceaseless support. "I think I'm ready for us to take this braid-woven path together," Alexandra confessed in her voice barely above a whisper, as she nestled closer against Julian's chest, a body seeking the solace of his warmth like leaves yearn for sunlight after rainfall. "To dream and manifest our hopes into reality, with you by my side through every chapter yet to be written." Julian's heartbeat quickened as he held Alexandra close. Their united presence in the dimming light of an evening that promised a new dawn was itself like watching two stars collide, a sight rare enough, for it not only brought warmth, but also illuminated even more profound depth to be explored and cherished. As they sat side by, Julian's thoughts drifted backward through the tapestry of their relationship trials, surmounted with grace that allowed them a rare clarity in appreciating life's brighter days just as much as its darker moments provided lessons and strength. The very essence of love had become for him an anchor, grounding his spirit to Alexandra's presence, while also lifting her up towards horizons, her horizon painted with infinite possibilities, born from a shared dream that felt so near yet seemed immeasurable in its scope. "I feel like we're living out our very own fairy tale," Julian said, his voice filled not just with sentiment, but an almost tangible hopefulness for the uncharted territories of their journey towed for a path where every trial faced was a rite of passage that only fortified and deepened the love they held. Alexandra nodded in agreement, her heart swelling at Julian's words as she considered how life had become richer with him by Alexandra's side, each shared experience like threads adding strength to their bond or connection woven from laughter that echoed. Julian and Alexandra had often found themselves gazing up at the starlit sky on quiet nights towed for a canvas of celestial beauty that seemed to echo their own intertwined lives above them, sparkling with untold stories waiting for eager minds like theirs. It was in those moments when Julian felt most vulnerable, and Alexandra's presence became a comforting embrace amid the expanse of space they both adored so dearly, or shared passion that had drawn them together on countless occasions since fate intervened, intertwining their paths as if by design rather than chance. Their journey began in an unassuming caf, where destiny first played its hand through a serendipitous exchange of glances across the room, eyes meeting and kindling what would become more profound connections beyond those brief, flickering moments shared over steaming cups of coffee. It was as if their souls whispered secrets to one another in silent communion before words could ever be exchanged, a knowing that something extraordinary lingered on the horizon between them, a promise wrapped delicately within every heartbeat and sigh they had not yet dared share with anyone else. As Julian's mind traversed back through time, he remembered their initial encounters, laughter echoing off calf walls as if painting invisible strokes on an unseen canvas, the warmth of shared glances that seemed to hold a cosmos within the May universe brimming with potential and wonder. It was in these moments when they had both felt most alive, each revelation about themselves more profoundly understood through reflections mirrored by Alexandra's gentle smile or compassionate gaze, as she offered her hand like an anchor to steady his heart during tempestuous seas of uncertainty and joy alike. Their shared dream had become a constellation or guiding light for their future, etched into the night sky above them both, that they might build not just together but also as one in every endeavor life presented before them, to find strength within each other's vulnerabilities and celebrate joys with an intensity only found when two hearts beat as a single drum. Tonight, Julian felt Alexandra's hand clasp his firmly around the wrist of their shared blanket. Her gesture that seemed all too simple yet spoke volumes about how profound her love had become for him. It was more than companionship or friendship, but an anchor in life's tumultuous sea. As they lay side by side beneath a sky awash with stories, Julian felt his thoughts drifting toward the future and beyond an unspoken promise that every trial faced together would only serve to fortify their love further still. Each shared experience like threads woven into an ever-strengthening bond of trust. And tonight, as if by some cosmic design or gentle nudge from above them in the form of a pairing stars silently witnessed between two souls so closely linked, Julian and Alexandra felt their journey unfold before them like unraveled rhythm leading toward infinite possibilities. It was then that Julian found himself whispering his feelings into her ear, each word punctuated with hope for the adventures still to come as they navigated life's vast unknown together. "I feel," he said quietly between shared breaths of dream and reality intertwining like vines across their joined hearts, "like we're living out our very own fairy tale." The sentiment hung in space around them, a soft echo resonating through the fabric that connected two souls on a path towards something greater than themselves. Alexandra's heart swelled with love for Julian as she absorbed his words, her lips curved into an understanding smile, reflecting back at him not just acknowledgment, but also affirmation or shared belief in their story that had been written together from the very beginning by forces greater than themselves. It was a tale of two intertwined fates, destined to traverse forays illuminated with infinite possibilities and painted in shades more vibrant for having each other's presence alongside them every step, beneath constellations bearing witness as time unfolded its mysteries like pages turning within the owls of their shared history. The night seemed a sad journey through dreamscapes where love was a constant companion and horizon stretching infinitely before them. It felt to Julian that with Alexandra by his side, they had already conquered worlds unseen while standing firmly upon Earth's soil beneath twinkling stars above, as the gentle warmth of their embrace provided solace against life's chill winds, and as laughter echoing from within themselves added to threads strengthening ties that would hold fast through tempests. In Chapter 10 of their shared history, under a tapestry woven with countless stars and whispers of destiny, Alexandra and Julian found themselves at crossroads where decisions branched like tendrils in an enigmatic garden. They had journeyed through the echoes of laughter that danced around them as their love story unfolded beneath a sky alive with celestial secrets they felt drawn to explore on this particular night, when time seemed suspended and every heartbeat was like waves lapping against shores unseen. As the horizon stretched beyond imagination's grasp, Alexandra whispered words of an ancient lullaby her grandmother had taught her, a melody so hauntingly beautiful that it carried with it tales from generations past and hopes for futures yet to be written in their own hearts. Julian listened intently as his fingers traced the lines etched into Alexandra's palms, each a story of resilience against life's relentless storms, her testament woven by her lineage that had survived through epochs and tales long before him or hers began to intertwine. The warmth between them was not merely physical but spiritual. It pulsed with the kindred energies of souls united in purpose, their essence mingling like streams converging into a mighty river that flowed through realms beyond mortal comprehension, realms where love transcended time and space. And as they stood there together at night's embrace, Alexandra's breath became one with the air around them. Her heartbeat harmonized with Julian's every rhythmic pulse that thrummed within his chest like a drum echoing through canyons of eternity. The decision before them was not simply about where to journey next, but rather what essence they sought to discover in their shared voyage, an essence as boundless and unfathomable as the cosmos that cradled human existence within its glowing embrace. They had always known this adventure would lead into realms of wonderment beyond sight or touch, yet here before them lay an opportunity for something even more profound, to delve deeper not just inwardly but outward as well, or chance to witness the very fabric of reality respond when love's tendrils entwine. With a tender sigh that seemed like whispers from their ancestors, Julian took Alexandra's hands into his own and gazed upon her with eyes reflecting depths where light itself dared not tread, an intensity born not of fear, but an insatiable longing for truth wrapped in the warmth she exuded. The night air carried a scent that seemed like petrichor after rainfall, mixed with hints of something more ethereal, as if nature herself conspired to reveal paths unseen by those who walked solely upon earth's ground, without her heart's compass guiding them toward the mysteries beyond. Their shared journey had been a pilgrimage towards understanding, or quest not only for themselves, but also their place within this grand tapestry of existence where every soul is connected by threads invisible yet unbreakable, woven through loom-like hands that shape destiny with each beat and whispered word. And here they were now on the precipice between worlds, deciding whether to follow paths illuminated in silvery moonlight, or venture further into shadow where secrets await like ancient tomes, yearning for curious eyes eager to read their tales across dimensions intertwined, where love's power could perhaps unveil wonders not yet dreamt by mortal minds. Alexandra closed her own heart as if sealing it within a crystal orb that held the essence of every emotion she had ever felt and shared with Julian. This sphere shimmered in his hands like liquid gold melting into an amalgamation of light there, love's luminescence casting away doubts or fear, for they knew no darkness could penetrate their bond. They stood as guardians at the threshold between worlds that hummed with vibrant life just beyond human grasp, and realms where silence bore wisdom only heard in dreams, when souls are willing to listen close enough to hear echoes of eternity calling out names like themselves, beckoning through time's veil. Julian opened his eyes as if seeing for the first time, with a gaze that pierced reality's illusion and touched upon truth untouchable by mortal senses. He felt himself not just standing beside Alexandra, but within her essence. As intertwined their spirits, or they moved like one entity through possibilities infinite. The garden around them thrummed softly, a symphony of life that played out beneath starlit flora here, not just vibrant, but sentient beings sharing their own forms of communication through colors unseen by the naked eye and perfumes inaudible to ears. Without Julian's unique gift, he perceived every shade of green, each note of fragrance as a word or melody that told stories older than humanity itself. Alexandra had always marveled at his ability, until love taught her patience for silence, just the samer language she was learning to understand with Julian's gentle guidance. As they spoke in hushed tones, their words laced together like silk threads of light spun from silver moonbeams that touched upon truth untouchable by mortal senses. Herein lay a secret garden where love had the power not just to illuminate, but also to transcend dimensions. They discovered an ancient pedestal at this sacred spot, its surface etched with runes glowing faintly as if alive themselves, or testament to magic that hummed in harmony with Julian's heartbeat and Alexandra's breath when united. Upon the touch of their fingertips against these mystical symbols, together forged by love, they were transported beyond ordinary sight into a plane where shadows held whispers of wisdom from times long forgotten. Every shadow danced with possibilities as vast as galaxies themselves, while each beam of moonlight revealed pathways unseen to human eyes. It was here in this liminality that Julian and Alexandra realized their love had the strength not just to bridge worlds, but also realities where emotions could manifest into tangible forms, lighting up darkness with hopeful radiance where none existed before. Their journey led them through an iridescent forest whose leaves shinned like dew-kissed gems under the moon's gentle caress. It was a land of wonder that flourished in silence and understood itself beyond words, yet thrived on expressions made manifest by love. They encountered creatures crafted from dreamscapes, themselves beings born from longing for companionship just as they had been sculpted through the essence of their bond. Alexandra's heart swelled with awe at these beacons of shared emotion, each one resonating deeply within her soul. In this enchanted grove, where reality's veil was thin, where every rustle and murmur held significance in an intricate dance between existence and the potential beyond it, Julian's eyes opened to a sight that pierced through illusions of time as if he himself became timeless. The very air around him pulsed with life's symphony, weaving together threads from countless lives into one magnificent tapestry, where every heartbeat echoed in eternity's embrace. It was here they found the crystal echoes, or set of orbs that mirrored their feelings back to them like reflections within a still pond, revealing not just themselves, but also glimpses into futures woven by shared dreams. Within these spheres existed memories and hopes intertwined with the essence of love itself. Each orb was imbued with visions that danced like flickering flames or conflagration born from passion, understanding, trust, courage, compassion, laughter shared beneath starlight. Alexandra watched in wonder as these orbs pulsed warmly against her palm and Julian's chest. Their love had imbued each with a vibrancy that transcended the physical realm to touch upon something profounder, communion of spirits where every note played on an instrument composed from starlight resonated in frequencies only felt through soulful connections. In this chapter, they discovered echoes not just as reflections but also as guides, whispers that Alexandra and Julian stood in awe as they held hands amidst the crystal echoes that surrounded the mass silent testament to their intertwined souls, now resonating with shared dreams of love's eternal dance through time. Each orb hummed gently against Alexandra's chest, its light flickering like candle flames within a breezeless room. Their hearts beat in synchrony as if the world itself had orchestrated this moment to be nothing short of magical, a connection forged not just between two people, but across epochs and possibilities they could scarcely imagine yet felt so intimately known. As Julian's fingers brushed against Alexandra's, a warmth emanated from the crystals that mirrored their affection with an intensity beyond mere physical sensation. It was as though time had folded upon itself to let them touch eternity in this very instant of now and then. The air vibrated softly around the mass symphony composed by unseen forces, playing notes from the past within a melody that promised futures yet written across dimensions where their love could unfold into legends whisper amongst stars themselves. Their breathing slowed to match one another's as Alexandra leaned in closer, her eyes locked onto Julian's, gaze the depth of his brown irises reflecting the universe's vastness back at them like cosmic pools trapped within living glass. And then he whispered words that seemed plucked from dream itself, a lullaby for their spirits to rest and find peace in love unbound by time's relentless march. Alexandra, Julian murmured tenderly, his voice carrying a weight of centuries yet light as feathers on gentle wings. In these moments shared with you I'd dance through epochs beneath this night sky where constellations bear silent witness to our love's tale unfolding in whispers across infinity's expanse. Her heart fluttered, a fragile bird against the tempest of her emotions as she whispered back, "Julian, my dear, we stand at history's crossroads where every reflection within these crystal echoes is not just an image, but also guidance. Let us listen to their whispers and follow them beyond our own imaginations." Together they closed their eyes once more, not in the physical sense that Julian's touch ceased, nor did Alexandra let go of her hand when his fingers met hers again as if drawn by an invisible thread woven from shared dreams. The crystal echoes continued to pulsate around them like a heartbeat pulsing through time's vast network or beacon, guiding their souls towards horizons painted with promises of futures yet untouched but felt within every flicker and shimmer reflecting back at them from the depths. As they journeyed deeper into this convergence between past, present, and future reflections intertwined in love's eternal dance, a story began to form on their skin, a tapestry of memories that had been lovingly woven by hands unseen yet felt as tangible threads within the fabric of now. The crystal echoes whispered secrets into Alexandra's ear, tales not told but lived through each other's ice and endless library, where every story was a mirror to their own souls intertwined with those they shared in dream and wakefulness alike. "Fear not the unknown paths that lie ahead," one whispered as if addressing both themselves, "for love is our compass through all mysteries of time's vast ocean." Julian smiled at Alexandra's peace-filled iso-reflection within a mirror maze where reflections knew no bounds. He felt her strength in his arms that anchored them to this moment suspended between now and forever, as if every beat brought forth echoes of what was yet unwritten but already lived. "In the symphony scribed upon our hearts," he promised, "our love will resonate through ages, where even stars listen with yearning ears." The crystal echoes grew brighter around them. Their radiance spoke not just to eyes that watched for beauty in light's spectrum, but also touched souls whose essence had mingled across lifetimes. As Alexandra and Julian gazed upon the orbs, they realized these were portals not into realms of fantasy, where gods held court over mortal fates alone, but gateways to understanding themselves as one with time's ever-turning wheel. "Let us," said Alexandra tenderly, while holding hands that felt like anchors amidst temporal storms, "trust in the heart." Alexandra and Julian stood hand in hand before an ancient altar encrusted with gems that seemed to pulse in time, their skin kissed by countless sunsets over lands both near and forgotten. The crystal echoes shimmered above them like constellations trapped within the earth itself. They serve as a testament to lives lived across lifetimes, or legacy of souls intertwined with their own through threads unseen but deeply felt, each echo in resonance carrying tales that transcended mere words. Tonight's journey had brought them here under Celeste 09L conditions, where the very fabric seemed to warp and weft around these portals of wisdom, entangling past selves in an embrace as tender yet firmly rooted as their own, a connection that stretched back through history itself. Alexandra traced a rune on her finger with fingertips still damp from the last rainfall they had encountered together, and found solace not just in its cool, smooth surface, but also within it. Each character inscribed was an echo of their shared experiences across time's expanse, a map to understanding themselves better. Julian's eyes held a quiet strength as he looked upon her with tenderness that spoke volumes without need for speech. "In our reflection we find not just ourselves, but the essence of all those who have come before us and will follow." It was within this sacred space they sought to understand their place in time's grand tapestry, a pursuit as old as thought itself. The portals beckoned them forward with a soft luminescence that seemed almost alive, whispering of untold histories where love and loss were but two sides of the same coin spun through ages. Julian reached out, his hand quivering just so on Alexandra's forearm as he spoke once more. "Let us trust in our hearts to guide this dance across time's vast ocean." Together they stepped towards one such orb or prismatic sphere that pulsed with the energy of lifetimes yet unfolded. As their fingers brushed, a rush of understanding cascaded through them like waves upon ancient shores. Here within this moment and memory was where beginnings blossomed into endless possibilities, as if life itself were an eternal spring from which they sipped without ceasing to drink or taste the waters. Inside these portals Alexandra gazed not only across lands that had flourished under different suns, but also peered through windows of time where souls like their own played out endless variations upon a single themelode's melody, resounding in harmony with heartbeat and breath. The air thrummed around them, vibrating with the energy that coursed from one shared soul to another, as if each beat was not just of Alexandra's pulse, but also those who had once been bound by their reflection within this very glass before her eyes now knew no end. They were all part and parcel of an unending cycle, where beginnings are always folded into the next, a circular journey with naught to foresee or fathom save what lay in present embrace. Julian whispered against Alexandra's ear as he cupped her cheek, "Our souls have danced upon this same stage beneath many skeezer steps imprinted on the very essence of eternity." He knew not just for them, but also within him was a yearning to unravel every thread that composed their shared narrative, understanding each echo as if it were one they had lived themselves. As Alexandra's gaze flitted across this world, where past and future intertwined like lovers in an endless embrace, she found herself drawn ever closer towards the portals yet once agate ones, that promised not a journey outwards, but into understanding their own reflections within each other's eyes. These orbs held no escape for them. They were as much homecoming to her heart's desires and Julian's fears, anchoring every dream in substance, where reality seemed almost malleable beneath the weight of love shared across time, each memory a thread spun from their very being that twined into eternity itself. And so Alexandra reached out once more towards an orb bathed in hues unseen by earthly eyes, its surface undulating with potential as if alive to touch and be touched upon. Returning here, they had come many times before, a cycle of seeking not just for themselves, but also the essence that made their connection transcend mere mortality. Julian's voice broke her reverie gently. "See how our reflections in these mirrored waters." Alexandra's fingertips traced patterns in the sand as she spoke softly into Julian's ear. "The world is so vast, but this moment feels just our own." With each word that escaped her lips, it was almost a whisper carried on sea breezes and rustling leaves, as if drawn by an unseen force to where water met sky in the distance before the Malone Island, shrouded not only in fog but also mystery. Julian wrapped his arm around Alexandra's shoulders as they made their way towards this enigmatic landmark, a place steeped with tales of old and new, souls alike seeking solace, or perhaps something more profound within its embrace of sanctuary that seemed to exist in the liminal spaces between reality and fantasy. The further along the shore they walked, the stronger their connection felt, as if each step was guided by an invisible thread spun from shared experiences woven through time's loom, a fabric of existence where past, present, and future melded seamlessly into one another's heartbeats. They stood before a door carved with intricate runes that beckoned to them as if they had been waiting for this very moment, or portal not just between worlds, but also within themselves, an invitation where the past was always present and future moments awaited birth into tangible form through heartbeats echoing in harmonious chorus. Alexandra felt a pull deeper than any physical attraction as her gaze settled upon Julian standing at this threshold, her breath caught between anticipation of what lay beyond those ancient stones, yet knowing the true treasure would be found within their shared journey itself. For it was not just about exploring lands or uncovering lost relics, but understanding themselves and each other in ways never before imagined. With a tender touch upon Julian's hand that sent shivers of warmth spiraling through her being, she whispered promises only he could understand, or vowed to remain steadfastly intertwined with him as they navigated any adventure yet unfurling their path together. For in this moment, where time seemed suspended on the cusp of eternity and love transcended mortality's grasp, Alexandra knew that within each other lay infinite realms awaiting discovery through eyes wide open to wonder. As Julian looked into her azure blue gaze, reflective not just his own, but also depth beyond surface perception or mirror, wherein their souls spoke truth without the need for words, he reached out and closed Alexandra's hand within his, feeling strength woven through gentle flesh like a tapestry of interconnected lives that had unfolded across generations to converge upon this singular point in time. And as they stood together at this precipice where dreams hung suspended amidst the tangible world, he felt an echo resonating from within her call not just for exploration, but also deeper understanding and unity, rooting itself ever closer into their very beings, drawing them back to each other with a force that seemed as much primal instinct as it was guided by love. "Alexandra," Julian began in hushed tones brimming with reverence, "do you feel how our reflections merge within this water's depths? Our stories interlace like ripples upon its surface, each wave a testament to shared experiences where past and future converge, a dance of light that illuminates the essence which makes us whole." As he spoke, words wrapped in tenderness as though they were sacred incantations, Alexandra felt herself pulled even further into Julian's embrace, sensing an indescribable bond between them where time held no sway, or connection that transcended the physical realm to touch upon a plane beyond mere mortality. And so, with hearts intertwined, like roots beneath ancient earth, they stepped through those runes etched into stone, as if stepping not just towards another world, but also further within themselves, where love's embrace knew no bounds and every reflection held the potential for infinite discovery, a journey that would lead them to. Julian and Alexandra stood hand in hand as they approached a hidden glen encircled by towering trees, whose leaves whispered secrets with every gentle breeze that meandered through their branches, rustling softly like an audience awaiting the unfolding of another revelation. The air was cooler here, and for Julian's touch against Alexandra's skin felt like a soothing balm on his soul, a reminder he sought not just solace from loneliness, but also connection in each other that seemed to flow as naturally as rivers converging into the sea of their love. It was within this secluded nook, underneath an old willow tree, whose branches stretched out like protective arms sheltering all life below it, they found themselves once again at Julian's feet with a decision made and yet to be acted upon, for as his lips parted in reverence towards Alexandra's presence beside him on the mossy ground that day, he felt compelled by an ancient force driving them closer together. Julian began then, voice barely above a whisper but heavy with emotion. "Alexandra," said Julian tenderly as his fingers traced gentle circles upon her cheek, "do you feel how our reflections merge within this water's depths? Our stories interlace like ripples upon its surface, each wave an echo of shared experiences where past and future, the seen and unseen, converge." Alexandra closed her eyes for just a moment longer to envelop herself in Julian's words. She felt as though their reflections were not only merging but also intertwining like vines around each other's forms. As they stood before this mystical pond, its surface mirrored the sky above, yet held beneath its depths, where unseen world awaited them both, their journey that promised to extend beyond mere corporeal limits and into realms of profound transcendent experience. Julian continued his incantation with a voice as soft as moth wings fluttering against skin, guiding Alexandra's consciousness deeper still, for every reflection holds not only our faces, but also the potential for infinite discovery, a journey that will lead us to realms beyond mere sight or touch. His eyes locked on hers, and his gaze conveyed a sense of shared destiny as they both felt an inexplicable tether binding them, one which was older than time itself. Alexandra's heart ached with wonderment. She knew that this journey would take her beyond the tangible world into places unseen by human eyes, into territories where love's essence resonated through every particle of existence and defied any attempts at division or separation between two souls as one. It was within these runes, chiseled upon stones around them like silent sentinels from an era long forgotten, Julian discovered a map to their shared future path that led inward towards understanding the depths, not only of each other's hearts, but also themselves alone and together at last united as one. Julian reached out, fingers barely grazing stone etched with ancient symbols before pausing on those runes which depicted scenes both mystical and mundane, or testament to the journey that lay ahead of them, a tale woven from threads not just his own but also Alexandra's. In Julian's touch he found an assurance within himself, for they were embarked together on this quest towards inner exploration where discoveries would unfurl like blooms in eternal springtime at the heart of their intertwined souls, a journey that promised no end but ever unfolding beginnings. With each step forward, Julian felt as if he and Alexandra were retracing steps not just across lands untouched by modernity's grasp. They trod upon sacred ground, where the echoes of forgotten civilizations hummed with ancient wisdom that reached out through time to guide them towards understanding their own place in this world which was ever expanding beyond simple concepts like here or now. As Julian and Alexandra ventured deeper into what appeared as an endless forest, they were drawn not by sight, but rather a sensation of belonging that pulsed within the very core of their beings. A feeling so strong it felt almost primal, or force compelling them to uncover secrets hidden in every leaf and stone beneath our feet, one which whispered promises of discovery just beyond reach, urging Julian forward with each heartbeat towards Alexandra's side that resonated like the counterpart melody. Julian took her hand as they moved through the forest, towed for a bond so strong it was almost tangible between them, and he felt himself being pulled further into this shared experience. The forest was alive in ways Julian had never truly comprehended before. His skin prickling with an energy he felt rather than saw. It wrapped itself about him like the comforting embrace of a mother, a feeling that Alexandra recognized as well but hadn't quite named until this moment when she placed her hand upon his arm. It was then they both sensed their connection, not just in flesh and blood, but something deeper intertwined within them. It had always been there, waiting to bloom like the heart of springtime eternal, at which Julian felt himself becoming a part. The path before them forked abruptly into two distinct trails, so well trodden yet seemingly forgotten by time, and another that appeared as if untouched since their meeting with fate itself. It was veiled in the softest mosses of emerald green and lined with flowers Julian had never seen. Together they pondered over which path to take when a sudden rustle nearby caught them off guard, a sound both familiar yet alien. as if calling out from ages past whispering tales that could only belong in this mystical place where the veil between then and now thinned so thinly it was near invisible. Without thought for direction or reason beyond curiosity's gentle nudge, Julian reached over to take Alexandra's hand once more, their fingers entwined with a strength that seemed almost supernatural. They felt as if this shared energy might just be enough to bridge worlds and times alike. As their feet found the path, less trodden together, it became clear. Each step forward was not merely about reaching Alexandra's side, but diving deeper into themselves, a personal journey of understanding that led them through a labyrinth of self-reflection. In every fallen leaf they crunched underfoot. The forest grew denser around them, as if enveloping their very essence, with shadows and light playing hide and seek among the canopy above. It was like stepping into an ancient amphitheater where nature itself held court over silent stories untold by any human tongue for eons. The air carried a symphony of sensations that spoke directly to their souls, a language beyond words, filled with truths they had yet to learn, but felt as if the forest already knew them better than themselves. It was here, amidst this living tapestry, where Julian began grasping at threads. Notions like here, or even now, seemed fleeting concepts, rather insignificant against eternity's backdrop. A sudden gust of wind sent a cascade of leaves spiraling in the air before landing softly around them, a reminder that change was constant and time flowed differently here than anywhere else Julian had ever called home. It felt as if they were standing on sacred ground where history's heartbeat pulsed with ancient wisdom awaiting to guide their way. The two wanderers found themselves at an open glade illuminated by moonlight filtering through the leaves above, casting a silver glow over everything in sight, a moment of stillness that allowed them both time for introspection and communion beyond mere words or touches. It was here where Julian took Alexandra's hand once more, as they sat upon an aged stone bench carved with runic symbols whose meanings danced tantalizingly close to his understanding. With each heartbeat, the connection between them deepened, an invisible thread that wove through their beings so tightly it seemed Julian and Alexandra were one entity. They shared laughter over memories yet untold, as if recounting tales from Liffit Zero's sea prior to even meeting this evening's journey. The world around them continued its ceaseless dance of growth, decay, birth, and rebirth, their own lives but mere threads in the grand weave. It was here where Julian found himself looking deeply into Alexandra's eyes that told stories older than time itself, yet shone with possibilities as bright as any star above. As they stood up to continue their exploration together under the watchful gaze of ancient spirits, a gentle hum resonated through the forester sirens, call for discovery and understanding that beckoned them towards uncharted territories within themselves. It was here where Julian felt himself being pulled further into this shared experience, as Julian and Alexandra continued their exploration through a realm where history whispered secrets from every leaf and stone. They moved as if in step with time itself, each discovery leading to deeper layers of meaning within them both and between them too. As the golden hues of twilight began to blend into velvety blackness punctuated only by distant stars above, Julian felt a growing sense that every moment spent together was an eternity in its own right. They were not merely witnesses, but participants in something far greater than themselves, an ancient continuum. In the hush of nightfall, when their breath mingled with frosty air as one deep-throated exhale into a shared silence, Julian and Alexandra found comfort on an age-worn wooden bridge that spanned over murmuring waters beneath them. It was here where memories seemed to swirl around the water's surface like reflections of unseen worlds. They watched as ripples spread outward from their presence in gentle waves, a physical representation of how even small actions could resonate through time and space, a lesson they both felt profoundly connected with since that first touch upon each other's skin under the same ancient boughs years ago. Julian wrapped his arm around Alexandra's waist as she leaned against him, sharing in a warmth not just of body but also heart. It was their silent communication, or language beyond words, where every sigh and shared glance carried immeasurable weight that transcended the present moment. Here, amidst this timeless space between them, lay an understanding so deep they could almost sense history's pulse coursing through his veins, guiding him towards her like a compass needle aligning with true north. She was both lost and found within each other's embrace, a discovery that seemed as natural to the cosmos itself. The night sky above them became their canvas of dreams, painted in swirls of celestial light, guiding Julian's thoughts backward through time toward where they had first met. Alexandra laughed softly at a jest, only she could hear her laughter mingling with the lullaby of crickets that serenaded them into deeper communion. He knew in his soul this night was destined to be etched within their shared journey, an indelible mark upon the continuum they felt themselves partaking even as mere mortals walking through realms beyond human comprehension or sensation, both humbling and exalting, that brought tears to Julian's eyes. The bridge before them seemed made of ancient Kabbalist zero-C. Each stone held stories imprinted in their very essence, tales echoing the silent music played by wind through forest leaves or waves upon shore, a symphony as old as time itself, where every note had been composed and recomposed across eons. As Julian traced his fingers along Alexandra's cheek with a tenderness that betrayed both gentleness and strength, he knew their hearts beat in unison to the rhythm of this eternal dance, or harmony born from shared experiences, yet still uniquely individual. They were not just two souls, but also vessels for an ageless love. Underneath a canopy adorned with stars as countless and numerous as grains of sand on distant shores, Julian offered to Alexandra his hand, which she accepted without hesitation or gesture that spoke volumes in the quiet language they had come to understand between them. It was not just an act of politeness, but one of profound trust. With each heartbeat echoing through their joined hands and intertwined fingers clasped firmly together, Julian felt himself being pulled further into this shared experience, as if by unseen strings that tugged at the very core of his existence, strings woven from threads older than time itself. As they continued down a path less traveled amidst whispers only nature could produce on windswept branches or within rustling underbrush, Julian and Alexandra stumbled upon an archaic stone circle surrounded by verdant foliage, an arboreal altar where the land itself seemed to pay homage. This place of hallowed ground resonated with a presence felt in their very marrow. They could sense that this was no ordinary evening, but one imbued with purpose and destiny, guiding them toward revelations yet unseen by mortal eyes, or pilgrimage through time's own sacred temple where love transcended mere human encounters. They stood in silent reverence before the circle, as if each step forward was a prayer uttered into eternity. Julian and Alexandra were not merely explorers of history, but seekers after truth, or journey that Julian and Alexandra's journey had brought them to this very moment, an untouched circle of stones that seemed as old as humanity itself, nestled in a cocoon of ancient trees whose leaves whispered secrets only the wind could understand. With each step they took around what appeared to be an arboreal altar at its heart, Julian and Alexandra felt their souls resonate with something beyond mere curiosity. It was as though time had folded upon itself, inviting them into a communion that transcended earthly bounds. As dusk began to settle over the land like a gentle blanket of stars being woven from night's own threads, Julian and Alexandra found themselves inexplicably drawn toward an ancient oak tree standing sentinel at one corner of the stone circle, its bark etched with runes that shimmered when touched by moonlight. It was here they encountered a figure draped in robes as gray as twilight, whose eyes held depths unfathomable even to Julian's scholarly mind. The being spoke not, but gestured towards the stone circle, and then extended an arm encased within flowing garments that seemed woven from midnight itself. Without a word spoken between, the man language of understanding they had honed over their shared journey through time's own sacred temple, Julian reached out, his fingers brushing against those fabric tendrils before he felt the touch upon his hand, and then gently pressed into Alexandra's palm. The moment was charged with an energy that hummed in harmony with Julian's heartbeat. It echoed through their joint hands as if every pulse spoke of a future forged by love's unyielding fire, one where past and present merged seamlessly into eternity itself, her pilgrimage not just across the land, but within. The figure vanished like mist at dawn's first light, leaving behind only their ethereal touch upon Julian's skin as a lingering memory of what was felt in that fleeting encounter. Yet despite its transience, it imprinted itself indelibly onto his soul, a reminder that even the most ephemeral moments could hold eternal significance. With Alexandra by his side, and an unspoken promise hanging between them like a delicate thread of destiny woven from their shared experiences throughout history's tapestry, Julian knew they were embarking on something far greater than themselves, a journey that transcended time as the world had known it. As night fell and stars began to dot the sky with twinkling lights akin to distant campfires flickering across an Inkai canvas of possibility, Julian felt Alexandra draw closer into his embrace. Their joined hands were not only physical connections, but conduits for something far more profounder unity that bridged ages and defied explanation. As if guided by some celestial choreographer whose silent music resonated within the very marrow of their beings, they danced in a slow circle around the stone altar's heart. Each turn was an act not just of reverence, but participation in something that had been unfolding since time immemorial. In this sacred space, where whispers carried wisdom from forgotten eras and echoes resonated with primal truth, Julian and Alexandra discovered a shared vulnerability born out of the understanding they held for each other's souls, as if their very essences had intertwined like roots seeking water in parched soil. Their union felt not just romantic, but divine. It was an acknowledgement that love could exist beyond mortal confines, where two hearts beating together were a testament to the enduring power of connection across all boundaries known and unknown, a pilgrimage through history's sacred temple, with revelations yet unseen by human eyes. As they stood in silent reverence before the circle's embrace that night, Julian knew this was more than just an evening spent exploring antiquity. It had become a transformative odyssey where love and understanding flowed like rivers through canyons of time itself, a journey not measured by milestones, but felt in moments when every heartbeat synchronized with the pulse of existence. This pilgrimage, rooted deeply within Julian's spirit as though planted at his very conception, was a testament to how love could transcend mere human encounters and instead become an eternal beacon shining forth through time's endless corridor, a path less traveled that led not just into the past, but also toward destinies yet unwritten. With each shared breath, Julian felt himself being pulled further from his mortal self. Julian and Aria found themselves enveloped by an ancient grove as twilight descended upon their clandestine meeting place, hidden within a forgotten corner of Rome's sprawling ruins. The air was heavy with history. Whispers from millennia past seemed to murmur through the leaves above them and echo against weather-worn stones beneath their feet, a symphony composed by time itself. As Julian traced his fingers along an inscription that had survived centuries of neglect, he marveled at how these words held secrets far older than any living soul could fathom. Aria's hand gently rested upon the back of his own, a touch as delicate and timelessly comforting as it was unexpected in their shared journey through time-bound wanderings. They had traveled to this very spot countless times, searching for answers that history refused to offer directly but instead hid within its embrace like gems waiting beneath layers of earth and dust. Each visit brought them closer, not only together as a couple embracing an eternal love beyond the fleeting moments afforded by mortal life, but also deeper into understanding their interconnectedness with humanity's endless dance through ages past, present, and future, a pilgrimage that transcended mere sightseeing. With every sunset they witnessed here together were beneath a moonlit sky embraced only in the grove's shadows. Julian felt as though he was being unshackled from time's relentless march forward, and instead drawn towards an infinite horizon where love knew no end, a sentiment that Aria reciprocated with her own yearnings for something beyond. As they spoke of their dreams beneath the ancient olive trees, Julian found himself lost in tales spun not just from his imagination, but a tapestry woven by shared experiences and emotions flowing as freely through him now as if he had lived these moments throughout history, a concept that seemed no longer to be an abstract notion or poetic fancy. Their hands met again, this time amidst the delicate dance of leaves falling around them like soft petals in a gentle breeze. It was then Julian noticed how Aria's touch had become almost ethereal, a sensation that whispered to him with promises of transcendence beyond earthly concerns. They lay there on ancient grass, their bodies mere silhouettes against the fading light as they exchanged thoughts about eternity and existence itself. It was a conversation imbued not just by love, but also an understanding that what bound them together defied temporal constraints, an acknowledgement of souls entwined like intertwining roots seeking sustenance in dry soil. As the night deepened, Julian's heart thrummed with anticipation and unrestrained joy for their shared future, as one soul encapsulated by two beating hearts. He knew that this pilgrimage through time was not just about discovering ancient artifacts or understanding civilizations long gone, but rather an exploration of a love story etched into the very essence of his being, or connection to something greater than himself and Area. The moon reached its zenith, bathing them in silver light as they embraced beneath its watchful gaze. Julian felt each heartbeat synchronizing with an ancient rhythm that resonated through the stones surrounding their secluded grove, an echo of eternity encapsulated within a single night. Their whispered confessions about dreams and desires melded into one as they drifted off to sleep, enveloped by warmth both physical from each other's bodies and spiritual through their shared journey or pilgrimage that transcended mere sightseeing or academic pursuits. Drifting between the realms of reality and dreams beneath a canopy woven with memories made tangible in time's fabric, Julian felt himself being drawn towards an understanding not just for each other's souls, but also to where they both belonged, or place within themselves that had always been there, yet revealed itself only through the love he shared with Area. And so it was beneath this eternal embrace of history and heartbeats intertwined. Julian knew their pilgrimage together would continue long after twilight gave way to dawn, for even as they slept within each other's arms on ancient grass blanketed by time's enveloping earth, their love became an ode etched upon the very essence of humanity itself. It was a testament that such connections, once formed between souls transcending mortal boundaries and timelines alike, could endure like sacred relics guarded within Rome's most secluded as Area and Julian lay in their secluded grove of ancient trees beneath a sky painted with strokes of deep indigo. They found solace not just from each other's physical presence, but also within themselves. A profound stillness enveloped them as the world around faded to whispers. The night air carried stories older than time itself, tales that had danced on these very breezes for millennia, and now, in this sacred place where their souls resonated with timeless echoes of love's own eternal rhythm, Julian reached out silently to trace the contours of Area's face as he murmured softly about an ancient city they had visited, the ruins that stood proud despite centuries crumbling away at their feet, a testament to civilizations lost and found again in history's relentless cycle. His voice trailed into nothingness, yet here within the grove where spirits dwelled as much amongst these trees as any living creature might dare claim kinship with them, his words held more weight than they had ever known, resonating through bark and root alike to stir ancient energies that hummed in harmony. Area closed her eyes against Julian's recollections, but couldn't help feeling their warmth seep into the edges of her consciousness. She was drawn like a leaf cork within an updraft towards memories only they shared, or dance under moonlit skies, laughter that rippled through time to touch hearts as distant from them now as then. She reached for his hand across the bed and found it waiting there with all of her own anticipation. Together their fingers brushed in a greeting older than any spoken language or written word, or silent communion between souls seeking answers not just within each other, but also to themselves that had been hidden beneath layers untold. As Julian's hand found Area's, he felt the pulse of connection strengthen. It was as if they were being held by invisible threads woven from every moment spent to reach thread a story etched upon history, not just in stone or scroll, but within their own hearts and spirits, where time bowed its knee to love's supremacy. They knew this pilgrimage of souls had been destined, for as they lay nestled amongst the roots that held empires from beneath them, so did Julian feel himself rooting deeper into Area's essence. Their intertwined destinies became clearer with every breath drawn between shared dreamscapes and echoes reverberating through groves of time. Area's thoughts turned to a night they spent in Paris, where starlight reflected upon the Seine like liquid silver, tracing forgotten tales across water's surface. She could still hear their laughter blending with its gentle flow or melody that felt as natural and timeless here beside her beloved. The city had been but another layer to uncover within themselves through shared experience, each cobblestone pathway leading not just towards the next sightseeing wonderment or academic curiosity. Rather, these moments were like keys turning in locks of their own souls wherein lay dormant secrets and aspirations. Pilgrimage was as much about discovery within themselves as it had ever been. They knew then that they would continue this journey together, forging paths through realms both seen and unseen. Julian could feel Area's heartbeat synchronize with his own in a rhythm like no other, a dance of two bodies intertwined yet free within the embrace of something far greater. As their world shifted between reality's edge and dreamscapes, where possibilities sprawled as limitless as stars across night skies, they understood that this pilgrimage was not just to discover places, but also truths about each other's essence intertwined with the very fabric of human connection through ages past. Their love had transcended mere mortal boundaries and timelines alike. Julian felt it in every beat, as if their union was a sacred relic guarded within history's most secluded chambers, an emblem for souls wandering between realms to discover where they truly belonged. Here, amidst ancient trees that had borne witness to love's eternal cycle since time immemorial, Aria and Julian knew their pilgrimage together would endure beyond the boundaries of twilight, giving way to dawn like whispers in a dream carried upon waking breath, or tale not just for them but whispered into humanity's essence itself. As they surrendered themselves once more unto sleep's tender hold within Aria's arms, cradled on the grass blanket that had been time encapsulated, their connection became an ode at the world around them, faded away. The rustle of leaves became soft symphonies as they lay intertwined on a grass blanket or patchwork quilt spun from moments and memories, each square representing different facets of existence that had led Aria to this place where magic threaded through every aspect. As their bodies began its rhythmic dance in unison with the heartbeat shared between them, two souls intertwined like vines around an ancient oak, so did time seem suspended, allowing Julian a rare glimpse into eternity's embrace that he had never dared to dream. They surrendered themselves once more unto sleep's tender hold within Aria's arms, cradled on the grass blanket that seemed as much part of their story knowers, if it too was a silent witness from epochs gone by, its existence woven into the very fabric of time itself, and guardians like Artemis or Morpheus themselves. Each breath they took together became an echo in history's vast halls, every heartbeat a drum roll foretelling their tale to be sung across ages, yet unborner love story that transcended mere mortal bonds, touching the very essence of humanity's capacity to find connection and understanding beyond life itself. Within this sacred realm where dreams flowed like rivers through time's meandering landscape, Julian felt his spirit soar on wings woven from moonbeams. He saw himself not just as a man but as part of something greater, linked in an infinite chain stretching back to the dawn and forward into futures unimagined. Aria's love was like ancient alchemy that turned him inside out, revealing his truest self reflected through her eyes. He felt more than just flesh beneath cloth or skin upon bone, but a soul intertwined with hers in perfect harmony, a melody sung by the heartstrings of two lovers entwined under starlight. Their shared dreamscape was awash with colors unseen and songs unsung. Here, amidst these transcendental experiences, they understood that their love had been guided through time's labyrinth, or path foretold by fates intertwining like the roots of trees whose whispers carried tales from before human history's dawn. As Aria embraced Julian tighter within this realm where neither night nor day held sway, she whispered secrets into his ear that spoke only to their souls, her language birthed in passion and nurtured by longing for a unity deeper than love could ever claim alone. Here was the truth they sought, bound together through shared essence beyond life's transient veil. As if conjuring spirits from Aria's fingertips, she traced sigils of ancient power over Julian that shimmered with ethereal light, each touch a key unlocking doors to hidden chambers where love reigned supreme and hearts spoke freely without fear or pretense. Together they delved into the depths where memories swirled like mist upon morning meadows, each revelation bringing them closer not just in spirit but within their very atoms. Here was a realization that transcended mere physical connection, that to love another meant sharing one's essence with eternity itself. Aria and Julian were custodians of this celestial pilgrimage, where every whispered word became an incantation invoking the divine presence within them. Here in their union lay a sacred trust between soulmates destined to unite across dimensions, or harmony that resonated through time's fabric like echoes from long-forgotten halls. As night's velvet curtain drew close, enveloping all things not meant for mortal eyes within its comforting shroud, once more the couple basked in this sanctified communion, where love became a bridge spanning realms, or testament to their shared journey through dream and waking world alike. Their final night together on earth, beneath these hallowed in chapter 22 of their celestial journey, Aria and Julian found themselves enveloped by a serene twilight that painted everything with hues of gold and lavender, visual symphony to accompany their spiritual voyage. As the earthly realm hummed its lulling nocturne beneath them in dreamscape harmony, they felt an ethereal tug at Aria's essence, a call that resonated with her soul's deepest yearnings for unity beyond this fleeting existence. Julian followed the gentle invitation, as if guided by unseen forces of fate and love itself. Their hands entwined, they traced patterns across one another in an intricate dance of connection, where every touch was a language unto its own. It wasn't just physical attraction that drew them closer, but something far more profound. The shared timbre of their spirits singing with unison long before words were even exchanged between breaths and heartbeats alike. Their communion became an odyssey, one where each soul-born revelation threaded deeper into Aria's consciousness, or tapestry woven from strands of shared experiences that transcended the ordinary confines of life's ephemeral stage. Each memory unearthed brought forth a bloom in their garden of affection, rich with fragrant petals and velvet leaves, where love was nurtured under an eternal sky's embracer, sacred refuge from time's relentless march forward. Aria felt her essence intertwined so seamlessly within Julian's that it became difficult to distinguish between their individuality. They were a confluence of spirits, two rivers merging into one boundless sea of eternal devotion, where neither soul could exist without the other, and where love's very fabric was woven with threads immutable. Within this sacred union, Julian revealed his celestial gift as well. He possessed an innate ability to listen not just with ears, but through a heart unclouded by mundane concerns, truly hearing what Aria felt without the need for articulation or translation of emotions into words. It was in these moments that they discovered their souls were kindred flames, burning together within one another's sanctuary. Each flicker and dance shared a story across dimensions, where love knew no bounds, or divine interplay between two hearts seeking to complete the whole through eternal togetherness. Their journey transcended mere mortal encounters, as they embarked on pilgrimages of heart, traveling paths woven with threads invisible and unbreakable by earthly tribulations or passage, where each step taken was a sacred promise to one another in the pursuit of unfathomable depths beyond ordinary life's reach. It seemed that love had chosen them as vessels for its own expression across Lifit Zero, eternally entwining their essences into an everlasting echo within time's endless corridor of bond, where every shared dream and whispered sentiment became a hymn to the divine connection they both cherished. As night's velvet curtain drew close once more upon this chapter of eternity, wrapping around their union in its comforting embrace, Aria felt Julian's warmth suffuse her being like sunlight through canopy leaves, her gentle reminder that the sanctified communion they shared was a beacon illuminating paths untread. In these moments, where earthly demarcations blurred into obsolescence, their souls found rest in one another's arms beneath this hallowed firmament of cosmic love, or testament to journeys embarked upon and yet to come through dream's ethereal realm. Their final night together on earth was a silent sonnet sung by the universe itself, wherein Aria and Julian reveled in their sacred trust as custodians of an eternal bond or harmony that resonated beyond mere physicality into pure essence's embrace. Here within this celestial pilgrimage, each breath became a whisper to infinity's ear. And when the first light of dawn began its timid approach across their waking world stage, Aria and Julian knew, despite separation by cosmic expanse or temporal bounds, they would remain inextricably linked within love's eternal dance. For even as they prepared to depart from this earthly chapter beneath these hallowed skies one last time together, in the stillness of their farewell, a promise lingered like dew upon morning petals, or vow that though bodies may wander through life's grand, as Aria and Julian stood hand in hand on that brisk morning just after sunrise, their gazes met with an understanding deep as roots of ancient trees. It was a silent acknowledgment between two souls who had traversed through life's tempests together, but now approached the threshold where one must walk alone. The air carried whispers from countless lovers before them, whose paths converged and diverged in cycles much like celestial bodies, their courses etched by forces seen and unseen. Aria felt this as a gentle tug on her heartstrings that transcended human emotion into the poetic resonance of starlight. They had journeyed through worlds both wide and narrow, Aria with Julian across landscapes painted in hues too vibrant for any living palette to capture, where each sunset was a masterpiece brushed by divine hands. It seemed as though the horizon itself bowed before them. Their shared adventures had left imprints, not just on their memories, but also upon every leaf and stone they touched in lands beyond measure. From these experiences came an understanding that love, much like life's journey, was a mosaic of moments both joyous and trig, or tapestry woven with threads of laughter atop streams reflecting moonlight. Within the embrace of their farewell beneath this eternal sky, They had learned to find peace in solitude, Julian's hand lingering for an instant too long upon Aria's own. A final touch that spoke volumes more than words ever could, or was where two spirits found silent accord. The world around them continued its relentless march forward, while time held still between their fingers, as if to honor the depth of connection they had shared. This chapter in life would not close upon departure, but rather expand into new beginnings beyond sight and sound, guided by love's enduring song that echoed through existence. As Aria gazed upward at the celestial isle expanse of canvas, where starlight told stories of worlds uncharted and realms undiscovered in their own right, whispered to Julian a promise, her voice barely rising above breath yet carrying weight that could move mountains. She vowed not only for themselves, but also as sentinels guarding the sacred bond they had nurtured. It was an oath of protection against forces unkind and unforgiving in their intent or commitment to cherish this love beyond sight, touch, scent, or sound into eternity. And when at last Julian took her hand once more with a solemn promise that echoed through the quietude around them like an ancient incantation of parting and protection, his eyes held hers, as if in prayer. There was no fear to be found within their shared human frailty, only courage born from love's unyielding grip. As Aria felt Julian bury her palm deeper into the folds of fabric that would carry them across continents apart yet intertwined through history and fate, it became clear this was not an end but a transformation, a rebirth in solitude's cradle where love's essence could thrive unfettered. They stood at life's crossroads, the world before them unchanged save for their footsteps that no longer walked as one. Yet here they were bound by an invisible thread spun from dreams and whisper connection, so strong it transcended earthly ties to weave itself into existence's very fabric. As Aria allowed herself a final smile, the sun ascending with indifferent grace in its arc above them marked not just time passing but love's undying essence as well. For though their bodies may traverse different paths under separate skies where stars like distant lighthouses guided solitary voyagers home, their farewell was a symphony of unspoken vows and silent praise or harmony that resonated in the heartbeats of both Aria and Julian as they parted ways, not with sorrow but gratitude for shared journeys beneath this hallowed firmament where celestial love had guided them. And when their shadows ceased to meld upon each other's faces at dawn's first light, it signaled an endure, perhaps a new beginning, as they stepped forward into the day, carrying with them echoes of laughter and whispers like leaves caught in autumn winds that danced through time. As Aria walked away from Julian for what she hoped would be her last embrace on Earth's soil, it was less about saying goodbye than knowing they shared an eternal farewell wherein every second spent together had been a cherished stanza in the grand poem of their union, or sonnet, that as Aria took her last steps toward Julian's departing vehicle under a sky brushed with hues of pink and orange, she felt an unexpected serenity wash over her like gentle waves lapping at distant shores. The air seemed to carry the echoes of their laughter mingled within it, sweet reminders that warmth lingered even in moments tinted by partings. Subtle sorrow, the first hint of dawn, had painted a promise on its way, and with every step Aria took towards Julian's car, she felt the weight lifting from her shoulders, the heaviness not just of their physical separation, but also that which resided in unvoiced sentiments nestled deep within her chest. As they stood side by side at the crossroads, beneath a blanketed sky punctuated with stars now fading into twilight's last embrace, Julian reached out for Aria's hand, or gesture that felt like anchoring in time and space amidst their impending goodbye. The touch was tender yet laden with the gravity of finality, a tangible connection to endings as much as beginnings nestled within his fingers. Warmth against her palm, knitting together memories into comforting quilts, encasing them both in shared histories and imminent futures. "I can't believe this is happening," Aria whispered breathlessly between sips of steaming coffee they had found at a nearby cafe that exuded the scent of freshly baked pastries, somehow managing to add sweetness against bittersweet farewells being prepared in their hearts. Julian squeezed her hand lightly and nodded silently, his eyes mirroring not just understanding but a resonance with Aria's unsaid words that spoke volumes more than any dialogue could ever convey. A connection forged over years of whispered dreams, clasped hands beneath moonlit skies, laughter echoing through canyons carved by their love. as they parted ways at the cap's exit under a sky that seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of what was about to unfold, her tapestry woven from countless moments spent together and yet to come. Yeria watched Julian's back as he strolled towards his car, her thoughts swirling around their shared past like leaves caught within autumn winds that danced through time. The silence between them was profound, not a void of emptiness but an ocean where words could no longer encapsulate the depth they'd known towed for a love as enduring and vast as the night sky, now folding into separate constellations with each heartbeat that echoed in their ears. But Aria's gaze remained fixed on Julian until his back was lost to sight behind her favorite park bench where she often mused over philosophical meanders, a place carved from memories and sunsets, etched into the grain of its wooden slats by countless fingers, her own included. As Aria walked away for what felt like an epochal final farewell on Earth's soil beneath Julian's parting gaze reflected in her glasses, which she carefully wiped clean with a handkerchief, it was as though every step carried the weight of centuries. Love that had transcended mere mortality to become legend. And when their shadows ceased to meld upon each other's faces, at dawn's first lighter moment pregnant with promise and uncertainty held between them like a locket containing both treasured photographs and empty spaces awaiting new memories etched into silvered threads of time, it signaled an end, or perhaps, as Aria felt in her aching heart, the most beautiful beginning. For even amidst partings, wherein their bodies may traverse different paths under separate skies that guided solitary voyagers home like distant lighthouses illuminating uncharted waters of existence, their souls remained entwined within an invisible dance choreographed by the cosmos itself, a bond beyond physical separation, a resonance echoing in eternity's vast auditorium that defied time's envelopes and dimensions alike, where every second spent together had been not just cherished but immortalized as sonnet script within celestial love's grand poem. As Aria took her last steps toward Julian, she felt a comforting assurance or certainty that despite the distance they would traverse apart in this world's physical realm, their souls had danced together under starlit canopies of shared glances and knowing smiles. In chapter 25 of our tale woven from dreams and echoes across time's boundless tapestry, Aria stood at dawn's threshold, her silhouette blurred against a backdrop painted with hues borrowed straight from the palette where twilight kissed day goodbye. Her heartbeat was in harmony with the morning chorus of birdsong that filled their garden sanctuary, a place they had claimed as refuge and witness to whisper promises between two souls destined not just for love, but also an indelible mark upon history itself. The roses seemed more vibrant this day. Perhaps it was the gentle touch of Julian's hand that still lingered on her cheek, or maybe a shared understanding transcending their temporal dance had bestowed them with extra radiance to bless Aria's final dawn as she took him by his side one last time. They stood in silence, two spirits united, yet alone, a paradox of solitude and togetherness that only true love could navigate through the corridors between worlds where they now must part ways. As Aria's fingers found Julian's with reverence felt deeper than skin, a final embrace was to be shared under this sky-iron omen for what lay beyond their next horizon, an unknown future that awaited them like the vast ocean before sailors set out on uncharted voyages. And as they bid farewell in those last lingering moments of morning light, when shadows and sunlight played a symphony upon each other's cheeks, it was with more than just sorrow, but also an understanding or promise that their story would endure, not because the world forgot how to fall apart or mend. It lived on within Aria's heartbeat, in every beat echoing Julian's laughter and her own sigh of love eternally captured, now more than ever before immortalized between them, as they departed from one another's side for the first time since their souls were twined. Aria knew that she carried within herself a piece of him, or whispering flame ignited in her spirit when Julian was near, and flickering away with each step he took toward his own destiny, an echo through eternity where no silence could claim them as theirs or separate from one another. As the sun climbed higher into its arc above them like a golden orb bestowing blessings upon all that dared to love deeply and fearlessly, Aria's soul was alight with memories of nighttime embraces by candlelight of shared confidences beneath starlit canopies where even the stars seemed privy to their secret world. And in Julian's final moments before he turned his back toward her and walked into a different Sunners, she felt an assurance that though they might travel through separate skies under distinct heavens, like vessels bound for ports on distant shores, her part of him would sail with the wind beneath her wings. Aria allowed herself to believe in this truth because their love was not just interwoven within fabric and skin. It spanned dimensions where time stretched infinitely as vast plains beyond mortal comprehension, echoing through eternity's auditorium that defied any temporal envelopes or dimensional boundaries. The garden became a witness to this final chapter of their tale, or sacred space now imbued with the essence and fragrance of farewell goodbyes, where even as Aria's tears mingled on her cheeks, they were not just shed for Julian's physical departure but also for his absence in a dimension yet to be discovered by humanity. And it was amidst this garden that the last chapter unfolded a tale of two souls bound together until their end, where every step taken hand in hand beneath morning's blush, and each shared glance like silent poetry exchanged across parallel realities, became an indelible sonnet upon life's grand stage. As Aria walked away from Julian with a heart lighter than it had ever been, a testament to the knowledge that her love was not just for one, but eternal, transcendent beyond even their own fated journey toward distinct destinies across an endless expanse of time and space, she knew in profound certainty. It would continue living within them both as they embarked upon life's grand voyage apart, yet forever linked by the cosmic dance that had set two spirits together against all odds. Her love story, not written with pen but penned across the stars themselves, where every second spent intertwined was eternally immortalized within celestial time's vast and boundless library. And as Aria stood alone at twilight's last glow, her soul resonating with Julian's silent echoes, in an ethereal melody only she could hear, the garden had been their sanctuary. Now it lay behind them as Aria took measured breaths to steady the quivering of her heartbeat, her metronome set by love and loss, tick-tocking through each precious moment since Julian's departure from this realm. In an instant that felt like eternity had folded into itself, Aria's feet carried her to the edge of reality, where time held no sway over human affairs, her place known as the threshold. It was a misty expanse bordered by ancient trees, whose roads delved deep and twisted in patterns reminiscent of celestial maps drawn across night skies. Julian once found solace beneath their shade, tracing paths he long believed were mere folklore until the stars themselves had whispered them to his dreams. The threshold was said to be a place where emotions manifested like living entities, or sanctuary for those who sought clarity or resolution in matters of heart and spirit. As Aria approached, her senses were assailed by an intoxicating blend of scents. The essence of pine needles mingled with a hint of lavender carried on breezes that seemed to weave through time itself, carrying whispers from both past and future. With each tentative step forward, she sensed Julian's presence becoming more tangible, like warmth seeping into her being amidst the cold expanse of the threshold. She called out his name softly in a whisper meant only for him. It was as if he could hear every syllable carried on wind currents across dimensions and through lifetimes that spanned beyond their own fleeting existence, reaching back to moments they had shared when the world felt full of endless possibilities. There at the threshold, Aria found Julian's former translucent figure suspended in an ageless moment between sighing breezes and rustling leaves that spoke secrets only hearts versed in sorrow could understand. He was not there to return. His essence remained as a guardian of the love they had shared, forever preserved within this liminal space. As she stood before him, Julian's eyes met hers with an understanding born from limpid zero and as intertwined by forces that transcended simple existence, their gaze offering solace and wisdom beyond what words could convey on earth's fragile stage of life. He was the guardian to her heart, his spirit a constant in every change, through loss as well as joy. They shared no more spoken farewell, but exchanged an unspoken promise that their souls would forever dance among stars and earth, Alaketo entities locked not just by love's embrace at the beginning of time's tapestry, but now fated to continue this cosmic ballet, even as they ventured onto separate paths in a realm where every step was measured against eternity itself. Aria felt an ethereal lightness envelop her being, her sense that Julian's spirit would forever linger within the garden of their shared experiences and memories. Each bloom, petal, leaf cradled remnants of laughter, whispers of longing, touches imbued with love's undying essence. Their farewell was not one made only in tears or silence, but a duet sung to the rhythm of heartbeats that resonated through dimensions unseen, a vow etched within Aria's soul as deep and enduring as time itself. She knew her love for Julian would traverse every horizon, no matter how vast they might have been apart. She turned from the threshold with a courage born of knowing their spirits were forever entwined in the cosmic dance, a journey where each step was imprinted upon eternity's canvas as indelibly as constellations strewn across night's expanse, painting portraits not just on celestial vaults but also within Area herself. As her gaze lifted to the garden now bathed in silver moonlight filtering through ancient branches that had borne witness to their love's first bloom and last embrace, she took a final look back, knowing Julian's essence would remain with every sunrise, promising light upon dewy petals, her promise of renewal as constant as the tides pulled by unseen cosmic moons. In embracing her love for him that transcended even their shared journey through life's endless the garden had become a sacred space for Area and Julian. Its very air seemed to pulse with their love's frequency, creating ripples that traveled through time itself, a temporal echo of every heartbeat shared beneath the threshold's watchful gaze. It was there amongst the blooming memories, where they had once whispered secrets into each other's ears and sighed dreams under stolid canopies, a place now bathed in silver moonlight filtering through ancient branches, that bore witness to their love's first budding affection as well as its final embrace. Area stood motionless at the edge of the threshold, the very brink from which Julian had departed into realms unknown and where he would return, she believed, with a faith born not merely in hope but conviction forged through shared experiences that transcended mere life's journey together, an understanding they now carried within their soul as indelibly etched memories. As her gaze lifted to the garden before them, each petal and leaf holding on to remnants of laughter, whispers of longing, touches imbued with love's undying essence, Area felt a surge swell within her chest like tidal waves crash against distant shores. She could feel Julian's presence around them, as tangible as the earth beneath their feet. His scent lingered on every leaf, and she heard echoes of laughter that danced upon evening breezes, even though he no longer stood beside her physically in this world or sensory afterglow from a time when they had been one. Tonight felt different, as if the very cosmos conspired to bring their spirits closer together. It was an unseen thread of destiny woven into every starry pattern that night sky revealed, pulling at Area's heartstrings with silent urgency until she could no longer resist its call or beckoning for one last farewell. She took a tentative step forward onto the threshold and paused to trace her fingers along the engraved initials of their names that ran across time-hardened wood, feeling every groove as if caressed by Julian's own hands during days when they had been together, each letter an indelible mark left upon reality itself through expressions shared under this very sun and moon. With a sigh laden with love's poignant farewell, but neither tears nor silence could truly encapsulate, Area turned away from the threshold, her courage born not just of knowing their spirits were forever entwined in the cosmic dance, but also understanding her journey alongside Julian's would now span across dimensions unseen. She knew him to be traversing paths through realms where dreams bloomed into reality, and shadows whispered tales yet untold, worlds beyond this one that they had shared, for worlds she longed for in moments when her heart ached with the absence of his touch or warmth upon her skin. Her last look back at the threshold was not merely a glance, but an invocation to memories as vivid and brightly colored as petals unfurling under morning dew, where every sunrise promised light that would kiss each new bloom with renewal or promise of perpetual love transcending even life's temporal bounds. As she took one final step back from the threshold's edge and faced the garden bathed in silver moonlight filtering through ancient branches, Area whispered a silent prayer to unseen guardians that had watched over them since their first encounter with destiny, a plea for Julian's safe return. She then turned her gaze towards where he should be standing if his journey took him back into this world, an invisible figure cloaked in the mystery of cosmic journeys and boundless horizons, whose essence would remain forever interwoven with every sunrise, promising new beginnings upon dewy petals. Julian's return was not written only in her dreams or whispered between stars. It resonated within the very core of Aria's being as she walked back towards the threshold, each step imprinting their shared history onto eternity itself, footfalls echoing through dimensions that bridged past and future like intertwined roots beneath a forest floor. Her soul had journeyed across oceans not seen, but felt an sea of love's depth so profound it transcended the mere physical realm, inviting her to explore uncharted territories within herself, where their spirits danced in cosmic harmony amidst galaxies and nebulae. The garden before Area now seemed a microcosm for eternity itself, each blossom representing moments they had shared as Aria's consciousness drifted towards her own heartbeat within the threshold's embrace. A gentle breeze caressed each silver thread of thought spun from Julian's touch upon their shared memories, or tapestry woven with the golden hues of sunsets and shaded by whispering leaves. It was here that she allowed herself to let go. Her body succumbed to a deep, languid slumber beneath the watchful gaze of ancient sentinels rooted in time itself. Aria's dream world unfolded within the threshold's embracered garden, where each night bloomed into day and seasons held no sway over hearts beating as one under moonlight or sunbeams alike, intertwined through the ages by destiny's unseen hand. She floated amidst this eternal twilight sanctuary that mirrored her own soul's journey or voyage into realms where love transcended time and space, like water flowing from mountain to sea without loss or diminishment, only gain in depth as it traveled through endless streams. The drenched figure of Julian appeared before Aria, not merely a man, but an embodiment of her deepest yearnings, a reflection cast upon the surface of reality itself. His essence was felt more than seen, echoing across dimensions where stars were born and extinguished in heartbeats. As if touched by this cosmic muse, himself or perhaps just another spirit from those very oceans beyond, which their spirits had sailed, or sea that shimmered with the light of 1,000 distant suns, yet flowed under moonlight as calmly as her own teardrops falling upon the threshold. Julian's figure became an anchor to Aria's soul, and she found herself standing before him once more, in this world between waking life and the sweet oblivion of sleep, a realm where dreamers conversed with echoes from their past selves, or perhaps those they were yet to become. It was here that Julian's presence became tangible upon her skin, a warmth spreading through limbs, as if he had always been there beside her at the threshold and within the garden's embrace since time immemorial, love so profound it could only be birthed from dream to reality. Their hands met once more in this ethereal space, fingers brushing lightly yet leaving an imprint upon each other's, spirits like footsteps etched into the earth of the threshold's garden floor, a sensation as real within Aria's heart that it stirred echoes from her most dormant memories, a resonance with every bloom, leaf, and petal surrounding them. "Julian," she whispered to him across dimensions where thoughts could be shared without words or distance between hearts, a voice carrying the weight of their history woven through silver threads that traced back not just in time but into eternity itself, a tale told from one soul's perspective and retold by another. He spoke now, his timbre soft as falling leaves within the threshold's garden, or perhaps a melody carried upon the wind to touch souls like hers. He who had walked through worlds beyond her own perception, yet always found himself returning here, a place where their spirits could commune beneath silver moonlight filtering through ancient branches and amongst dew-kissed petals. "My love," Julian's voice, a timbre that transcended mere sound to touch upon the essence of Aria's being. He who had been her anchor in every tempestuous tide since their fated encounter, a presence both constant and ever-changing as they traversed through realms unseen yet deeply felt. "I am here," his voice continued, not just a declaration, but the very embodiment of constancy within change. For no matter how far Julian might journey across dimensions or galaxies where nebulae birth new stars in silent uplift, his essence remained intertwined with Aria's soul, as if their spirits had always danced together amidst cosmic harmony since time immemorial. The garden before her, a microcosm for eternity itself, each blossom representing moments they shared under the watchful gaze of ancient sentinels, rooted in Aria's heart, and the threshold's hallowed ground or place where their love transcended mere physical realms to touch upon depths unfathomable by mortal minds. "I am here," he repeated, a promise as everlasting as the cosmos itself. For though Julian might traverse past